कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय राधा मुरलीधर की जय So we're reading today from, before that let me do my invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Canto 10 today. The canto that is here is 11th canto. I just realized. So let me pull up Canto 10, Samam Bonam, Chapter 20, the rainy season in autumn in Vrindavan. And we are at text 45 and 46. So I'll read the Sanskrit translation for 45 and move on to 46. The Sanskrit. Ashrishya samashitoshnam prasunavanamaturam janastapam jahur gopyo na krishna hrita chetasa. Translation. Except for the gopis whose hearts had been stolen by Krishna, the people could forget their suffering by embracing the wind coming from the flower-filled forest. This wind was neither hot nor cold. There's no purport for this. In the next verse, text 46, Gavo murga kaga narya pushpinya sharada bhavan anviyamana svarshay falairisha kriya iva. Translation. By the influence of the autumn season, all the cows, doe, women, and female birds became fertile and were followed by their respective mates in search of sexual enjoyment, just as activities performed for the service of the Supreme Lord are automatically followed by all beneficial results. And purport. The purport is basically a paragraph from Krishna book. So essentially, it's purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada comments, on the arrival of the autumn season, all the cows, deer, birds, and females in general become pregnant, because in that season, generally, all the husbands become impelled by sex desire. This is exactly like transcendentalists who, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, are bestowed with the benediction of their destinations in life. Srila Rupa Goswami has instructed in his Upadeshamrita that one should perform devotional service with great enthusiasm, patience, and conviction, and should follow the rules and regulations, keep oneself clean from material contamination, and stay in the association of devotees. By following these principles, one is sure to achieve the desired result of devotional service. For one who patiently follows the regulative principles of devotional service, the time will come when he will achieve the result, as the wives who reap results by becoming pregnant. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I seek blessings of all the assembled devotees, especially our Adi Purusha Prabhu, that may this discussion be in line with Guru Parampara and spiritually uplifting. Hare Krishna. Adi Purusha Prabhu is always here. He's steady as a rock. And hopefully by his blessings, we'll be able to discuss something fruitful. So we are in the 20th canto, continuing with the descriptions of rains and autumn. Actually, by this point in the 20th chapter, we are now sort of segueing into autumn. So this chapter started by descriptions of rainy season, which comes after summer. So summer can be symbolic of the heat of the summer, especially Vrindavan. Places like Vrindavan can be really, really hot and dry. So the heat of Vrindavan can be compared to the heat of material enjoyment and lust. So sometimes when the sun is too strong, especially in California and places like that, there can be droughts, like Arizona, or even Vrindavan can be like a dry climate. So this heat can be compared to the lust of material life. And this heat can dry up our bhakti also. So when the rainy season then comes, it's like a welcome change. All the living entities are really looking up to the skies in anticipation of the clouds. And when the dense, dark clouds filled with the the vapor, it's like the clouds filled with rain is approaching, all the living entity become really enthused and excited, and it's like a welcome change. And when the rains come, it's like not only do you get relief from the summer sun, but also when it starts pouring, then it gives, all the water gives life and sustenance to all the living entities, the plants, the creepers, the trees, the bushes, and they all start really flourishing and blossoming and getting nourished in the rainwater. And there's of course this clouds and thunder and lightning, and so the rainy season, as is being described in this chapter, brings mixed sort of results. On one side, yes, there's nourishment and sustenance for all the living entities, but also there's like clouds and thunder and lightning, which are compared to the three modes. The clouds can be like in the mode of ignorance, which covers the skies, especially the sun and the moon, and the thunder is like the mode of passion. It's like loud and sort of passionate. And lightning can be sort of like the mode of goodness, although material. So like this, we see mixed results in the rains, and the streams are sort of getting full with the rainwater, and they're overflowing, and the grains are all nicely growing. The farmers, before rains come, they sort of sow the seeds, and during rains, by the watering of the rain, all the fields are sort of nicely seeing the results of the rains. The grains start growing, and the farmers become happy. And the rivers being overfilled, they join the ocean. And then further in this chapter, it is described how the roads are covered with grass, and moon is covered with clouds, and so on. So this way, Vrindavan is sort of really resplendent and really being sustained and nourished by this rain. But also all the living entities, in one of the verses is described, they're being confined to the crowded, narrow conditions of their sheds. And Krishna and all the cowherd boys, they enter either a cave or the hollow of a tree, and they're exchanging prasadam. And then autumn season, then it transitions into the autumn season. And then, of course, in autumn season, all the cloud cover, it dissipates, and Then you can finally, at nights, you can see the stars. And if it's a full moon, you can see the beautiful full moon surrounded by stars. And all the ocean and the lakes, they become still. During the rainy season, the rivers and the lakes, they become agitated because of the falling water, and all the water appears to be really muddy. But when autumn comes, all the water of the river and lake, they settle down, and then they become really clear, crystal clear, like the minds of sages who are free from any agitation. And then also it's described how lotuses start flourishing. There's ample sunlight and moonlight, and the animals come out of their crowded shed, and the earth becomes clear of all the mud water. And it's also described how in this chapter how fishes which were previously swimming in waters which were overflowing, now the water level starts diminishing and receding because the rains have stopped. But the fishes, they don't realize that the water level is diminishing. They're blissfully swimming. So it is described it's compared to the materialists who don't realize the diminishing lifespan, and they're just busy and happy enjoying material life. So like this description of autumn is also given, and the cooling moonlight is then soothing all living entities. And Krishna is compared to the moon, and all these devotees that are surrounding Krishna is described to the stars that are beautifully surrounding the moon. And in this condition, when all the devotees are sort of appreciating and enjoying the season of autumn, and the autumn further is a time of harvest. All the farmers, they become really happy by their bountiful harvest. And so summer, rains, and autumn, these three seasons, it's pretty much symbolic. Summer is the time of austerity. In devotional life, one starts off performing austerities and fasting on Ekadashi and various appearance days, and following the four regulative principles also by itself. Prabhupada would say that is also an austerity. So like this, devotees, we perform a lot of austerity. Of course, summer can also be symbolic of all the material suffering that we go through, the passion of youthful passion or the passion of lust. So that's the summer austerity. And then when the rain comes, that's like mercy, when we finally start feeling mercy in Krishna consciousness. And it's like a welcome change. But then that rains is also mixed, like how it's in this chapter is described. There are some positive and some negative descriptions of rains. So the welcome rain is also the merciful shower from our guru, sadhus, and parampara. So that is a welcome change. But that also brings about its own anarthas. How Madhurya Kadamini describes that there are some anarthas that come from bhakti. Some anarthas come from sinful activities. Some anarthas come from pious activities. Some anarthas come from aparad. So dushkruto uta, sukruto uta, aparadota, and there's bhakti uta. Some aparadas come from bhakti. So this process, this rainy season, which brings sustenance and nourishment, but also it's described in this chapter how the waters become really agitated, and the roads become covered with mud and so on. So in this bhakti also there can be some anarthas that start sort of cropping up, which can cause some uneasiness and discomfort in our lives, and we start wondering, am I progressing or am I regressing? Seems like my anarthas are increasing more and more. And then finally autumn comes, and autumn is like the payoff time. Then finally we start seeing the results of all the bhakti activities we're performing, and all the results, whether we desire it or not. Sometimes we enter Krishna consciousness with this desire for results from bhakti. I know one devotee, they're no longer coming, but this was some years ago, where that person was saying they were sort of gloating of all the results that they're seeing already in Krishna consciousness. They were saying that I started practicing Krishna consciousness, and before I had problems of my credit card application was constantly declined. And then finally, in 6 months, I got my credit card application got accepted, and this thing happened. That person is saying, already in these 6 months, so many nice things happened. I'm really looking forward to all the wonderful things that will happen. Of course, that person had a really not a complete understanding. But anyway, we still approach Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we have material desires, we approach that and those get fulfilled. And in the advanced stages, we may not have any desires, but still it is described in the verses that we read, 45 and 46. And the example given is in the autumn season, all the cows, doe, women, and female birds become fertile and are followed by their respective mates in search of sexual enjoyment. And it said, just as the activities performed for the service of the Supreme Lord are automatically followed by all beneficial results. So like this, we see some fructification of our devotional practices as they start bearing fruit. They start bearing results in Krishna consciousness. So as we start our Krishna conscious journey, all of us are here for because of some promise. At the beginning, we saw something. There was something that either attracted us. Maybe for some it was the devotees. We got attracted by the devotees, or maybe the process itself, or whatever that is. We see some prospects, some promise, something in it for us. Like Krishna explains, Chaturvida bhajanti mam jana sukriti arjuna artho jigyasura tarti gyani cha bharata shava. Excuse me. That there are 4 kinds of people that approach Krishna. So initially we see a promise. There's some kind of a hope, some kind of a promise, and we enter. And it's like you make a payment and you make a purchase. Like you go to Amazon or something, and you see a product and you like it. You click checkout, you make a payment, and now you're waiting for the product to be delivered. The shipping timeline is maybe 5-6 days or something. So we come to Krishna consciousness, we make this payment. Now we're waiting for the product. And so that payment is be paid through in terms of our austerity. But then sometimes you wonder, where's my finished product? I'm waiting for my, and sometimes it might feel that there are more problems, coming up in terms of our anarthas. So those problems, those period of struggles, like we're discussing, are due to our own anarthas. These surface up. Like especially many devotees, they come to New York, and New York has this intense energy. And then it's just too much, and then they have to leave. It's just too much coming up. Also, if you're engaging in Harinam and other powerful Panchanga Bhakti, and then all of our anartha starts surfacing up, and then it can disturb us. So this process of anartha nivritti can be a little painful. All of us anarthas are surfacing. And so the Acharyas explain the different stages of development in Krishna consciousness, starting with Shraddha. Adav Shraddha tato sadhu sangota bhajana kriya. Tato anartha nivritti syat, tato nishta ruchis tata, atashakti tato bhava tata prema bhyudanchati. Iti sadhakanam ayam prema pradur bhavit krama. That there is these progressions in Krishna consciousness. Our Acharyas, Rupa Goswami, and also Vishwanath Chakravarti explains these stages of progression. And it starts with Shraddha. Actually, before Shraddha, there is also this Agyata Sukriti that comes about. That unknowingly we get some Sukriti. So, and Sukriti also, there's different types of Sukriti, Bhakti-onmukhi Sukriti and Bhogonmukhi Sukriti. But Bhakti-onmukhi Sukriti is that Sukriti which gives us a prerequisite. It's like gives us some pre-qualification to perform Bhakti. Like you might go by Harinam party or something, and then you unknowingly clap or something, or you say these Hare Krishnas, and then you develop this Agyata Sukriti. And that gives us more Sukriti, and then we do Gyata Sukriti. Knowingly, then we give them some donation, and then from Gyata Sukriti, then our Shraddha starts to blossom. The faith starts to blossom. That's the first step. And from Shraddha comes Sadhu Sangha. And then once our faith is strong enough, then we start associating with devotees, and we start hearing from devotees. And then once Sadhu Sangha then becomes substantially developed, then we move on to Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya are those activities of devotional service itself. And the acharyas explained that bhajani kriya also has two types, anishtata bhajani kriya and nishtata bhajani kriya. Bhajani kriya is like our devotional practices, and anishtata is like those unsteady devotional practices. Sometimes we might feel inspired to go to temple, and sometimes we don't feel inspired to. And there are like these 6 symptoms of anishtata bhajani kriya, which is the first one is ganatarala. First one is Utsahamai. Utsahamai is like the I like to call it the PDS, the pure devotee syndrome, where you practice Krishna consciousness for maybe 6 months and you feel like, okay, I'm almost there, I'm a pure devotee. And then few more months and I'll be a pure devotee, Pariviraga Chacharya, or Paramahamsa devotee. So that's Utsahamai. And then after Utsahamai is like Ganatarala, which is like thick and thin. Sometimes you're really like fired up, and other times you feel like, I don't have energy. So that's Ganatarala. Utsamai, Ganatarala, and then there is Vyuda Vikalpa, which is like indecision, constant back and forth, being on the mental platform. The example given is like of a typical your run-of-the-mill brahmachari who's contemplating if he should switch to grihastha ashram or not. So he's like in brahmachari ashram, he's thinking, oh, brahmachari ashram is great, grihastha ashram is maya. But then he thinks, oh, brahmachari ashram is a lot of austerity, maybe I should switch to grihastha ashram. And then he thinks, but in grihastha ashram it has its own austerity. Maybe it's better to be in brahmachari ashram. Then he thinks, but in brahmachari ashram I don't have support. In grihastha ashram I have a lot of support for performing devotional service. So maybe I should be in grihastha ashram. Then he thinks, oh, in grihastha ashram there's a lot of responsibilities. Best to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's Vyuda Vikalpa. And like this, there's other symptoms being described, like this Vishaya Sangara, which is your struggles with sense gratification, or rather from abstaining from sense gratification. And you're constantly find yourself falling short of that determination of refraining from sense gratification. And then there is Niyamakshama, that your inability to follow vows, or waking up early and things like that, following vows, you fall short. And then there's Taranga Rangini, which is like Taranga, like those waves of the ocean. When you're riding the wave of bhakti, you're just enjoying the benefits coming from bhakti, all the benefits that you're getting. So like this bhajani kriya, anishtata bhajani kriya, unsteady devotional service. But then we keep performing devotional service, and then after sadhu sangha, bhajani kriya, and then this anartha nivritti. So as bhajani kriya continues, we also come across this anartha nivritti, which is purification of the heart. Actually, anartha nivritti is the biggest stage in our practice, which is the purification. And it's not that these steps are like sequential. After bhajani kriya comes anartha nivritti. It's not so much as like one comes after. All these steps are simultaneously going on. But the first stage, our shraddha is sort of manifesting. Second stage, sadhu sangha is sort of more predominant, and the next stage, our bhajani kriya is more predominant. So just because we're in bhajani kriya stage doesn't mean our anartha nivritti hasn't started. So all these processes are simultaneously going on, but at each stage, one phase is sort of becoming more predominant. So anartha nivritti it starts right from the point when our shraddha is sort of blossoming. But in the stage of anartha nivritti, as acharyas describe, the most bulk of the purification of the heart goes on. And in anartha nivritti, again, it's like we were discussing, there's different kind of anarthas or impurities of the heart coming from sinful activities, pious activities, bhakti and aparadh. All those are getting cleansed, and when they're sufficiently cleansed, then we move on to the stage of nishtha. Nishtha is being like really fixed and steady. So in bhajani kriya, there's 2 platforms, right? Anishtata and nishtata. So anishtata is unsteady devotional service, and nishtata bhajana kriya is the same as being on the platform of nishtha. So in the stage of nishtha, also there is like these 5. Anyway, I'm going too technical, but the point is the acharyas describe there's different stages, and there's symptoms of these different stages. So the idea behind this discussion is we go through this process of devotional service, which is the austerities that we have to go through, the summer and the rainy season, and finally autumn is like the payoff time. And just to continue on the train of thought, like if I may just add a few more points, which is nishtha, and then after nishtha comes ruchi, which is the taste of devotional service, and after ruchi, taste comes like asakti, which is attachment. So asakti is compared to up until ruchi or bhakti, or this whole progression can be compared to like sowing the seed of bhakti lata seed in our heart. And then the seed starts sort of when the small sapling or there's like a small creeper leaves start coming out. That's compared to the stage of nishtha. And then finally at the stage of asakti, when we develop attachment, that's compared to like the budding stage, when you see like the buds of these flowers. Now, especially the spring here in New York, when you go to Central Park and other places, you see these beautiful buds coming up. That's the stage of asakti. You finally start seeing something. After all these years of Krishna consciousness, I find something's happening. And then after asakti is the stage of bhava, when those buds start blossoming into beautiful flowers. And then beautiful flowers then start giving fragrances. So that's the stage of bhava. And then after bhava is the stage of prema. Prema is like the ripe fruit. So in a tree, when you see there's buds coming up and then there's flowers, and then finally the tree starts bearing like these fruits. So that's the stage of prema. So autumn is this payoff time, as we are discussing in these two verses. And all the deer and the cows, they become fertile and they start becoming pregnant. And in this verse, the purport, the acharyas explain that although the deer, the women, the cows, they're not looking for sexual enjoyment, but still they become fertile and their partners come and they become impregnated, and then they bear the fruit of having a child. So the acharya explained like that, devotees, although on the advanced stages, we may not be looking for results or some ulterior benefits from our practices, but still Krishna, out of his mercy, bestows benefits of our Krishna conscious practice, although we may not be performing devotional service for some ulterior motive. But then still, whether we want or not, the results come of its own. So I would like to ask this question to all of our assembled devotees, that yes, in one side of our Krishna conscious practices, we have some material desires, and there's nothing wrong with it, as Bhagavatam explains. Akama sarvakamo moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham para. That whether one has desires, no desires, desiring for liberation, still one should approach Krishna. Even if one has material desires, best to approach Krishna than to look other places. So Krishna is merciful, he'll bestow the results. So moving on from that, if you have spiritual desires, that's even better. So one question I would like to ask everybody is, what is the best thing that could happen to you in Krishna consciousness? If someone came and told you, I'm ready to bestow some spiritual desire, think of whatever you want, anything, just absolutely anything you want, and 3 benedictions. And no, you can't ask for, I want 3 more benedictions. Sometimes when one of those questions, someone asks you, what was 3 things you would like? And you say, okay, one of those 3 things is, can I have 3 more? So let's say someone comes and asks you, Prabhupada or Krishna or our Guru bestows benediction. Absolutely anything you can desire. What is the biggest thing you can ask? Spiritual. And what is the best possible scenario? Your absolute dream come true. Have you ever thought about that in Krishna consciousness? Like, only if I could have this particular thing, like, Krishna, please, please, please. And think big. And one condition of this condition, I see Jamuna Jai Prabhu getting really excited, and she's like, yes, yes. And the condition is think really, really big. That is one condition. You're not allowed to think small. And Prabhupada would say, when you approach a really rich person, don't be cheap. Don't ask, if you're approaching a billionaire, don't ask for a few $1,000s or even $1 million. If you're approaching a billionaire, ask for $1 billion. So in Krishna consciousness, are we allowed to think of this? Is this okay? Can we think of all this? And so sometimes it's nice to sort of not be in a mediocre bhakti, just not be in continuing with our basic, our neophyte level Shravanams and Kirtanams. Yes, it's Shravanam, yes, it's Kirtanam, but what is the ultimate goal, the prayojana? Like it said, Prema Pumarto Mahan. What is the ultimate goal? What is one's spiritual desire? And the beautiful thing about this, thinking of this topmost spiritual desire, and you're encouraged to think of this and be greedy. Go on with it. Please be greedy. Chaitanya Charitamrita said, what is that verse? Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavito Mati Kriyatam Api Kutopi Labhyate Tata Laulyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Koti Sukriti Na Labhyate. That Krishna consciousness can be obtained by paying only one price, which is one has to pay the price of intense greed, spiritual greed. One has to be really, really greedy. And when you're in this greedy stage, then Krishna, the beautiful thing is you come up with, okay, finally, let's do this exercise. For the rest of the day, let's all think and meditate upon the topmost spiritual benediction you would like. And then the beautiful thing is when you finally come, initially you might struggle, like, okay, I'm not able to think of any spiritual benediction. Finally, you might think, okay, yes, I finally now thought of the biggest thing I can ever dream of. And then finally, when our Krishna consciousness comes to fruition and Krishna bestows us with a certain benediction, you realize that Krishna's benediction is way, way, way more than you could even have dreamed of. Let's say you had dreamed of XYZ. I want this XYZ spiritual benediction. Krishna, please bestow me this, for some, whatever that is, spiritual. And I'm talking of spiritual benediction. There's nothing wrong in desiring for something spiritual. And then when Krishna bestows that, you realize that, wow, that exceeded, it was way beyond my expectations. Like in Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, it's described as it's quoted, Dhruva Maharaj is quoted in Hari Bhakti Sudodaya as being saying that when he was praying to Vasudev that I want a kingdom greater than my father, and then finally when Vishnu came and appeared in front of him, and he bestowed, and he asked, what would you like? And at that point, Dhruva Maharaj was completely spellbound. He couldn't ask. But then Vishnu, knowing his innermost desire, bestowed this benediction and left. And at that point, Dhruva Maharaj realized, what a fool am I? I was looking for broken pieces of glasses. And in here, Krishna is bestowing me with the priceless, topmost jewels and diamonds. Imagine you compare like broken glasses and diamonds. So like this, the question is when good fortune arises. Actually, His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami wrote this book called When Good Fortune Arises. What does that look like in our Krishna? What would that look like if we were to get there to that topmost stage, when our topmost spiritual desires, benedictions are fulfilled, and we're like, oh my God, this is just, I can't handle this. This is too much. Is this even possible? Are we allowed to dream about this? And I'll just conclude with this one point. I see many hands. I saw some hands on our online audience being raised. So I'll conclude with one point. This Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. When this good fortune arises in Krishna consciousness, what would that stage look like? And it's nice to sort of dream about this and like, I wish that finally all our acharyas sing about this, Kabe Abe Seydin Amar. When will that day come when I'm fill in the blanks, XYZ, whatever that is for you. When I'm rolling on the floors in ecstasy, or when I'm serving my Guru Maharaj to my heart's content, or whatever that one project that you really wanted to do, whatever that thing is, I'm in Vrindavan or whatever. For some of you, it might be getting initiated but think big. So this Shreya Kairava Chandrika, this Kairava is like the lotus. Shreya is like the good fortune. When good fortune arises, the Shreya Kairava Chandrika, when this finally lotus of good fortune blossoms in our heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam, that by the process of Harinam Sankirtan, not only does the mirror of our heart gets cleansed, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapnam, that this blazing fire of material suffering subsides. When this good fortune arises, all this suffering that we've gone through, all the anartha and everything, the painful process, like the woman goes through pregnancy, the 9 months of labor and carrying, and all the pain that we go through. So the Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, finally all the suffering subsides, this blazing fire of suffering subsides. Chitadarpanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitanam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. And that finally that good fortune is like this ocean of happiness. It's not just a lake or a river, it's an ocean. And the beautiful thing about this ocean is ever increasing ocean. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. Vardhanam, it's ever increasing. Can you imagine it's ever increasing? Vitaranam Pratipadam Purnamrata. Every step we're tasting and we're relishing this nectar. When this good fortune arises, is Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. Every step we're relishing and this happiness is increasing and increasing and increasing. And Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So by this process of Sankirtan, this good fortune arises, and that is what is being discussed in this verse. Is just as activities performed for the service of devotional service are automatically followed by all beneficial results. So with this, maybe we can open the floor for any comments, questions, reflections. I saw our very own Yamuna Jaya were getting really excited. And then I think I saw hands. Bhima Prabhu, I saw your hand raised. I don't know if you had any comment or anything. Yes, Prabhu, please go on.
Jamuna Jaya, where is she? Let others comment first. And are we picking up from that question of questions? What would we like if Krishna was what would we like if Krishna could give us any benediction, any spiritual benediction? Are we picking up from there?
Sure, yeah, anything, absolutely anything that you want to add to this discussion, or yeah.
Yeah. So let the others speak. I'm very anxious to hear what other people, so that I can get a clue. So let the others ask. Haribo.
Prabhu is a gentleman. He's deferring it to other devotees. Anybody has any thoughts? I see some comments. Ananda Manjari Prabhu is, as usual, she's so expert at taking notes. She's taking notes. The heat of material life can very quickly and dangerously dry up the nourishment of bhakti. She says, through our connection with the Lord, we are given life. And Andrea, I see a comment saying, "Can I ask for?" Okay, do you wanna? I don't know if you want to ask that question. The comment that you posted.
I mean, I when you said the exercise, Hare Krishna, that's what I thought that would be not a benediction for myself necessarily, but a benediction for us as a society in whole. Just allowing us to really be in Samadarshana and kind of see that everybody could serve equally. So that's the first thing, honestly, that came into my mind. So I just kind of put it on the chat. Haribo. Oh, and sorry, what it was. I asked for Vaishnavi Diksha Gurus in ISKCON.
So I just thought I'll give you the opportunity to sort of, as opposed to me reading your comment, I thought it'd be fun to just hear from you. Thank you. You're thinking for the welfare of the whole society, not just your own benediction. Isabel, I see a hand raised. Is there? Yeah.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I wasn't able to listen to the entire class, but I do have, first of all, a reflection. Sorry, I'm trying to find where to put my phone as I get ready. I was listening to you as you were talking about bhakti and comparing it to the different seasons. And one of my favorites way to chant is outdoors, because I feel more connected to Krishna and I feel disconnected from the real world. Believe it or not, outside in the real world where I'm at home, I'm anxious and want to get up and clean and organize because I have a little bit of OCD. So your your class was very beneficial for me, because now when I walk outside, I feel a little bit more connected. So I do truly appreciate that. And then to answer the question, like if Krishna was to give us one boon, I have a question about that. I still haven't found in all these years a way to ask for anything for myself. Usually when that question comes up, it automatically goes to my two adult, I have to say adult because they're just, my youngest one just turned 30 and the other one's 32 next week. And I can't stop asking for God and for Krishna, for them. And is that wrong to ask for a boon for somebody else? Like my wishes is not for me, although they are my kids, it is kind of for me. But I always wonder about that. Is it wrong to, have such mercy to have a boon from Krishna directly and then not even ask for it for yourself? I have mixed, feelings about that, and people have told me different things. So if you can clarify that a little bit, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Thank you for that comment and also the question. I think we touched upon this in this discussion that whether you have material desires, spiritual desire, or no desire, one should still approach Krishna. So yes, in the preliminary stages, we might approach Krishna with a material desire, and that is fine. But then the other aspect of your question is you're praying for someone else, and is that okay to pray for someone else? And from what I misinterpreted your question, is it okay to ask for a material desire? Or so regardless of that, approaching Krishna is always recommended. One can go wrong with that. If there's any shortcoming, Krishna purifies us. So in fact, it is said that one should ask Krishna, especially when Krishna is giving benediction. One should ask. One should not ask. And there are two examples of this. One was when when Narsingha Dev, after slaying Hiranyakashipu, was really pleased with Prahlad Maharaj. He was asking Prahlad Maharaj for a benediction. Initially, Prahlad Maharaj said, how can I ask you? I'm no better than a merchant or a trader if I ask you for something in result. But Narsinghadev insisted, no, I would like to give you, please ask. So when the Supreme Personality is asking, one asks as also as a service. Does that make sense? You can ask for a benediction also as a service. You're allowing Krishna to give. He wants to give, so allow him to give. He's a maintainer, he's a protector. He takes care of the whole world. He wants to do this. He loves to do this. He takes care of all of us. He is our maintainer. He lovingly does that. So sometimes Krishna will tell you, ask for a benediction. So although pure devotees, like in this verse, it says that all the devotees, we don't necessarily ask for benediction, but still our devotional service manifests results on its own. So there's nothing wrong. And the other example also is in the Mahaprakash Leela in the Chaitanya Bhagavat and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, when Lord Chaitanya is manifesting his Krishna form and his different incarnations, and he's benedicting different devotees, and he's asking Kolavicha Sridhar and others, like, what benediction would you like? And same thing Kolavicha Sridhar says, I don't. Anyway, so the point is, I don't know if I'm rambling or if I touched upon your question, but yes, there's nothing wrong in asking. Absolutely nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in asking Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, no, you clarified
Was
it.
that
Thank
okay?
you very much. Yes, thank you.
Bhima Prabhu, I don't know if you want to wait or if you shall let others ask or comment.
Prabhu. I feel that and I can only go by experience, that when COVID happened, or when any great loss happens in an individual's life, when your business or your health, even dear ones, are lost, that we draw nearer to Krishna. Excuse me for breathing hard, I was just lifting bales of hay. We draw nearer to Krishna constitutionally, instinctively. If we have any devotional aspect to us at all, our instinct is to run to Krishna when these losses happen. So at the risk of Krishna fulfilling my desire, I just ask him to take more things away, because I can't give them up myself. That my grasp is too strong for me to release. So that I ask Krishna to take all these things that I'm attached to, because when I become detached from them, when they're ripped from me, then I instinctively turn towards the only thing I know that I have left, and that is Krishna's shelter, Krishna's affection, Krishna's presence. When I'm no longer distracted by many things and left in silence with, in a destitute way. And we all know that we all will come to that day. No one here, as they say, gets out alive. We all have to come to that point. Some of a lot of devotees, I was at New Vrindavan in the 80s, so I knew a lot of devotees who were very, very hard workers, farm workers, or Sankirtan devotees, temple builders. You know, they rose New Vrindavan. As you see it from the mud, there was nothing. And these devotees worked very, very hard. They lived, if you talk about austerities, but I'll tell you, and you know, over the years, troubling things happened, but the purification was so great that they remained steadfast. But in the end, when some of these devotees who were older than I was, you know, came down with cancer or were about to pass away, they started settling down, and all they had left was, you know, they would be in bed on their final days. Lots of them, you always hear these stories. Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj, Varshana Maharaj, Chandramali Maharaj tells these stories because they're always invited to be there, you know, begged to be there by the bedside of these devotees who are passing. And the devotees are all so very happy. And they say, I am finally reading Prabhupada's words. I am finally understanding what Prabhupada is saying. So I beg for that. I beg for that point where I finally understand what Prabhupada is saying. And there's nothing between me and Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
These devotees, wipe your tears after Bhima Prabhu's heartfelt contribution.
Anandabhai Prabhu, I don't know if you want to continue the discussion on Zoom. I'll put myself on mute, show the darshan. If someone has comments, you can sort of, I don't know, I'll leave it up to you if you want to, because I see Jeffrey Prabhu had his hand raised. So
Yeah, you don't want to.
show
Yes, let's
the darshan, and then Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Bhagavatam Samasritam Buddha-Sundarangam Kandarapagopikamiya Vishakshashvamam Govinda Hari Purusham Bhagavami Govinda Hari Purusham Aham Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusham Aham Bhajami Jalavigasya Govinda Hari Purusha Gajani Govinda Hari Purusha Bhajani Govinda Hari Purusha
Okay, this was the class. Jeffrey Eckler Prabhu, what was your reflection or question?
Prabhu, thank you. Thank you for the class. I was reflecting back to the verses after Bhima spoke, and it's so interesting to ask for more, as much as possible, to be taken away. But at the same time, it's in the verses there that the world, the earth after the autumn's after the rainy season is full of fertility and growth, and this overabundance of growth and fertility drives us to sex desire, as though that were the source of life. And it's interesting because we perform austerities and practice our sadhana, and when there's an overabundance of consciousness, we turn to consciousness. When there's an overabundance of material fertility, we turn to sex. And the overabundance of fertility comes from the cyclical nature of that fertility and the nature of the source of that fertility. And when there's an overabundance of consciousness, it comes from the source of that consciousness. And it's just interesting that this cycle of creating, by performing austerities and performing our sadhana, we enhance our consciousness, and that enhanced consciousness, when realized, makes us turn toward the source of that. And so it reinforces the idea that I guess bhakti is the means and the end. And so as long as we can maintain our focus on the true source of life and consciousness, then the means to glorify that source is the goal of life, if we're truly directed towards the source, I guess is my thought, if any of that made any sense.
Nice, Jeffrey Prabhu, beautiful. The means and the end in bhakti are the same. It's not that we're doing bhakti to get something. We're doing bhakti to do bhakti. What's the austerity in bhakti? Stay awake in class, that's one. Taking prasadam. It's not really austerity, it's fun. I mean, if we just have the right perspective and the right attitude, we can't even call it austerity. Our austerity is fasting for Ekadashi, being regulated in our service. Another austerity in bhakti is to cooperate with other devotees and be nice to them. But it's all adventurous and exciting. All these austerities are so exciting and we can feel the effect immediately. Okay. Godruma Prabhu, Adipurusha Prabhu. And I wanted to appreciate Bhima's comment. He spoke just like Queen Kunti. He's a surrendered soul, Bhima Prabhu. It's so interesting because what I asked Krishna for, I asked for Bhima Prabhu, I asked Krishna to send him more horses. And then Bhima Prabhu prayed that more things were taken away from him. Bhima Prabhu. You're a surrendered soul.
Prabhu, you know the truth of it, so don't lie to these people.
No. Adipusha Prabhu, Godruma Prabhu. You're muted, Adipusha Prabhu. We can't hear it. Godruma Prabhu is not muted, but there's no sound. There's no sound. We can't hear you. So while you gentlemen are figuring it out, I wanted to share quickly the greatest benediction. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Speaking.
Yeah, go ahead, Adi.
Yeah, the basic principle illustrated in the verse is that as you sow, so shall you reap. That there'll be a good result if you do a good thing. It's actually the first Chanukya shloka also. You do a good thing, good result will come. We have to be careful what kind of seeds we plant. And you can get a lot of pretty good things, but what we're really focused on, based on Shastra, based on what Prabhupada told us, is the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the only way to obtain pure devotional service. So we want to know not just what we're doing, but who we're doing it for. What am I serving? Who am I asking? Does this please you? If we're just doing a lot of good things, but there's no love in it, there's no intention to please be representative of Krishna in our life, we won't get the best result. So it's real simple. Please help me to be a pure devotee of my spiritual master. Krishna will grant that. And that means that the spiritual master's representative will manifest in our life. Krishna is so wonderful that he's allowing us to come to him by serving the spiritual master. Well, glories to Prabhupada. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. It's a wonderful way to pray. Krishna, please make me a worthy disciple of my guru. Let me serve my guru nicely. Or Srila Prabhupada, if there's no formal initiation. That's a very beautiful way to pray. Thank you. And okay, it's 8:15. Thank you very much, dear devotees. The greatest benediction has already been given. It's our movement. That's the benediction. Lord Chaitanya has given it. So let's take full advantage of it by engaging in devotional service, engaging in chanting, hearing regularly, doing service, reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It's not Krishna is not deficient in anything. He's not withholding anything from us. So let's pray to Krishna to take full advantage of what's already given to us. At least that's the way I prayed when Godruma Prabhu asked that question. Please, Krishna, let me take advantage of what's in front of me already. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Have a wonderful day. Come again tomorrow. Thank you very much for your presence in our life. We love you all. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, blank screen faces. What are you hiding, dear devotees? Come on. Okay, Hare Krishna.